gets thrown away because we let it rot because it's in a refrigerator and I wish I made it. Oh, sorry, I just throw it in the trash within a plastic bag inside of a plastic bag. Um, where you're talking is the collective superintelligence is um, I'm more troubled by collective ignorance that we have to peel off some layers here. Looking outside. I have so the neighbors, and they'll share a space, and I'm looking at they have a little barbecue area, and they have a little one of these plastic, bottles that looks like a lemon that includes lemon juice. Meanwhile, 10 feet from that little plastic bottle that contains lemon juice, is a lemon tree bursting with lemons. I mean, I can't even do anything with the lemons that are. And then next to the bottle with the plastic bottle with the lemon juice, is another little bottle of lemonade a bottle they just left behind. And they went to the market to buy those things for something that was actually 10 feet away from where they consumed it. And there was ample supply of lemons, and then some, and then some, and then some. But the two didn't match, and this is our collective ignorance. And unfortunately, we're embedded into collective ignorance. How do and it? I mean, I'm looking at this is not a genius situation. This is, I mean, you don't have to be fucking Einstein to put this together, but evidently somewhere in between it's missing, and yeah. So I don't know how we get to that. The supercomputers actually being coalescent to solve some basic problems.
Yeah. Well, look, here's how I see it. The CSI is going to be heavily populated by people like us, people who like to think and take on these big challenges and who have big hearts and wisdom and experience and all, just the right stuff, whatever that is for CSI, right? And let's say that's 1% of the population. 1% of 8 billion people is 80 million people. Give me 80 million dialed in people with the right stuff, and I will give you the most badass collective superintelligence that any science fiction writer could write about, right? Given that we've got today's technology, I wouldn't have made that claim in 1922, but given that we have today's technology, I make that claim. So, okay, well, what about the other 99%? Well, the 1% CSI, right? Not to be confused with the 1%. We will figure out everything, including how the other 99% should live, just like us. We got to make it fair, right? And, and they'll be just psyched that there's food and that food is guaranteed. Thank you. What's people's biggest fear right now is that they're going to starve. Bill Gates' biggest fear is pitchforks. And ironically, I used to work for Microsoft, and I know Bill Gates, met with him on a number of occasions. And on one of those, I suggested to him that we work with Warren Buffett and that we figure out the solution to world hunger, that we end world hunger. He simply was not interested, right? And the reason is kind of obvious. Look, if he's solving malaria, and he's got a few labs working on it, hey, I'm doing all I can do, right? Well, don't blame me that the budget is only $40 million per year, right? I'm spending all that I can. But when it comes to hunger, at some point, the opportunity is going to come up to say, hey, what if we just buy this food and deliver it? Anybody got a checkbook? And then all eyes are going to be on Bill. So he simply doesn't like those kinds of problems that might require him to break out the checkbook. Because how on earth do you be both the richest person on earth and the most generous? Answer, you don't. You got to pick one. Well, he chooses to be the richest. And he'll dole out money in driblets to his friends, right, to do these malaria projects and, you know, medicine delivery, whatever, you know, anything that doesn't require big bucks. He's all over it, right? That requires big brains, because, right, you know, that's his gift to the world, is his giant brain. And he gets to pay himself handsomely for that service.
Yeah, that's the billionaire dilemma, and I think that was actually really well positioned in the book Winner Take All. You know, the model that you know, there's interesting traps. We've trapped billionaires into a behavior just as we've trapped the poverty in the behavior, and we've built a weird construct of walls. This is a challenge. We're not about breaking walls down. We're about building walls. And then I look at, now they're looking at the satellites, and even satellites that are breaking apart and causing debris. That they're looking at this point where they can't even launch a spacecraft because they're going to hit the debris orbiting the Earth. We built a wall around the world. We have to to even go beyond the world. We have to actually have a program to break down the wall, to deorbit the wall. I mean, you know.
Sorry, Elon, we can't get your ships out. We can't get them past the asteroid field. Which asteroid field? The man-made.
One built of satellites of shit you put up there.
Exactly.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, this is where the agreements, the collaborations, you know, you get a great point. I mean, his model of thinking, and this is where I had really problems with Bill Gates, is his model of thinking is fixed, and the end result is not good. I can say he's coming to it with a general intent of doing good, but he doesn't have an understanding of what the effect of good is. He's just working with the practicalities of his world in it being good. And that's a lot of billionaires. The billionaires, when they have that good moment, they're really in terms doing what's good for them. But I'm putting lots of money out there, but they're not getting that. That's money building a wall. And yeah, these are, I think, our biggest deficit in collective intelligence is our lack of investment in sociologists. And sociologists really are the programmers, or the code, or should I say, the code advisors on the human code. So this next layer code we're stepping into is really the specialists involved, or sociologists, who are really examining what's inside our black boxes from a social impact point of view. And, you know, what's inside the Facebook black box, or what's inside, you know, the news black box, and talking about these things. And I have a term that evil happens in the comfort of our convenience. And all these things we're very comfortable with, that makes our life convenient, seems to have a very evil component to it. But it's outside our view. And like you're giving the example of Bill Gates, and this is my problem with Bill Gates, is that he's one of those, which he's one of us by being one of those. It's just he happens to have a lot of money, and and by default it has a lot of power. And all our behaviors around that. So yeah, I mean, to get to collective intelligence that we've got 8 billion supercomputers, I mean, it's really recognizing the layers we have to move through. I mean, what you're talking about is you have to education. I mean, well, no, you are started at the right spot. Food. We need to make sure food is getting to all the supercomputers. We need to make sure clean water is getting to all the supercomputers. So now this is like plugging the computer in. So we're going to plug the computer in. Food, water, reasonable shelter. Another layer. We need a maintenance routine. Okay, we need to get medicine to the supercomputers. So, these are the layers. If we're really affecting, and he's looking at this, I want to deal with infectious disease. And you're saying, well, you can't help people address their own infectious disease and problems if they don't have food. They're so low on the Maslow pyramid. Getting a cold is lower than starving, because they will starve by the end of the month. But a cold 2 months from now, why am I thinking about that? It's so so then when they get them at that level, then all of a sudden it's like, I'm now worried about getting a cold. I'm worried about how that will affect me. So now we're at, now all of a sudden there's an inclusion to medical help, because medicine is already showing up and being helpful, proven itself. It's given that level of trust and reliability. Yeah, and then the supercomputer goes online. All of a sudden, I've got food, clean water. I get, I've got resolutions to health issues. I may have some shelter, but even if you don't even have great shelter, at least if you're safe, you can make it work. That would add that stability layer, life stability layer. Then, shelter, clothes. Now all of a sudden, I connect into the internet, and I can build myself a windmill. I know how to build an irrigation system. I know how to, all of a sudden the supercomputer's coming online. And I think so. I think in your model, I think we got to go through these series of problems. And what's really aggravating now that we sit here with this pool of information, and I look at the math, and I'm going, we produce enough food to feed the world. We literally are doing it, and we're turning it to compost. And now we're in a situation where the privileged society is now finally going to start seeing, we're producing the food, but your food is being turned to compost because the mechanism is broken. And now and hopefully we digest that experience and realize it's what's been affecting the world is now affecting us. And it's not because we do not have the technology, we do not have the skill, we do not have the means. It's not a resource problem from we can't have. It's a resource problem because our failure to recognize the problems. And then, so I mean, we can produce the food. We have the medical technology. In the last 2 years, there's been more advances in medical technology than the lifetime of humankind. We have the medical technology. We just didn't feel it was important to get it to everyone. And so why isn't that the challenge? Versus right now, why don't we stop the advancements? It's wonderful. I love the advancements. It's a great idea. It's fantastic. More tough problems can be solved, but the tough problem now is the medicine, the solutions to people's healthcare is not getting out there. Or even better yet, we haven't even solved staying healthy, health quality of being cared for is not happening. So if we can get people's health quality up, then there's things. But it's all what you're saying is, how do we get the supercomputer online? And so where you're talking collective superintelligence, I think where I've had to disconnect in this discussion internally is that what you just put out there is how, putting the supercomputer online. That's our problem.
Yeah, have I showed you the solutions for ending world hunger? Not,
I'm sorry. So convenient at this moment. Let's go for it.
Here, let me show you. Apparently I haven't. So it starts with a new standard that we've developed for a compassionate economy called CCC. And
Hey, Jim.
yeah. Hey, James.
Yeah, sorry, man. I'm just going to cut in on you there for a second. It's just gone 4 a.m. here, so I'm going to go crash for about 2 hours, and I'll catch up with you later.
Okay, and just so you know, James, in 1 hour, Nolan's going to take over for me for a 5-hour period from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. because tomorrow morning we've got another meeting after the block party that goes for 8 hours. This is a really special one that I just cannot miss. So I got to get some sleep in between. So anyway, that's the plan. But
No problem.
it's 8:08 p.m. So you're leaving at a lucky time, you lucky Irishman. So love you, brother, and
James, love having you on board. I really want to. I apologize if I'm too intense in this moments. I really actually love what you put out there. I would love to hear more.
Cheers, Stephen. Thanks for that. Yeah, I love what you've been putting out as well. And no, there's no such thing as being too tense on this, other than being too tense in a positive way. That's the best way to be too tense. Yeah, I'll catch up with you in about 2 hours. I'm just getting a bit heavy-eyed, and I just need a couple of hours sleep. So I'll talk to you soon. Good night, Emery. Or good night for a couple of hours anyway. And Natalie, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Get some good sleep, James. We need you for the long haul.
Yeah, cheers.
All right. See you soon. All right. Back to ending world hunger. So this is a standard that we've developed. We have it trademarked for both the full swath of product categories and service categories, and it's trademarked as a certification mark. We've also created and trademarked the organization that will support the companies who are members who've been certified, and that's a membership mark, which is different from a certification mark. So anyway, we've got this thing trademarked from every possible direction, fortunately. But anyway, the heart of the standard is all profits go to ending hunger. Think Newman's Own, but whereas Newman's Own can donate, they just donate to charity. Here it's focused. But to be a Triple C company, you also must be socially transformational. Everything from how you treat employees and their children and their families and healthcare to community engagement and et cetera, et cetera. And then ecologically regenerative in everything they do. So all profits to ending hunger, well, where exactly would those profits go? For example, community cafes like this one that we piloted in Rosamond, California, a poor community out in the Mojave Desert.
Damn, I know one of those people in that lineup.
Exactly. So anyway, we got tired of talking about ending hunger. We just decided to go out and do it. So we created the community cafe, and then now put those last two ideas together, Triple C and community cafes, and we go from the Hunger Games to the Hungerless Games, a virtuous cycle for eradicating hunger. Triple C companies fund community cafes and other organizations, end hunger, and we do this country by country. So for example, when we end hunger in Haiti, that's going to be a hell of a story. And people are going to say, well, who funded it? Bill Gates? No. He consistently turned down the opportunity. So Triple C has done it. Well, what's Triple C? Well, it's this new standard, right? Well, shoot. And so, people will then want to buy more Triple C products, and on and on around we go. Well, who would want to start a Triple C company? I'm glad you asked. Let's look at the first. My brother Takuya Sato of the Sato family of Japan, which has the longest legacy of hemp in the world. They go back many generations. In Japan, there's a lot of stuff that's just has to be made out of hemp, regardless of prohibition, like sumo wrestler, diapers and babies, kimonos, and all, for newborn babies, all this stuff. Anyway, Sato hemp's been at it the longest. And my brother Takuya Sato is literally the hemperor of Japan. And so, and as the emperor, the dude's awesome. He's just incredible. And he stepped up and he said, ours will be the first triple C company. Right. Anyway, that's part of our stable of solutions for eradicating hunger. Of course, the community cafes of today would be mobile and focused on delivery as opposed to being a place that brings community together, which is yet another one of the benefits of community cafes. So anyway, there's all kinds of great solutions that can be developed and perfected to make all of this happen. And, and collective superintelligence is the great meta solution to get them all done and all working together. And 1% of us can do it.
Hey, we're all part of the 1%. 1% not chimpanzee. And yes, I think you got a good approach there, because my friend Brewster Kahle, who he's been in AI for he studied under Marvin Minsky, the father of AI, supposedly, and thinking machines and so on, and he created Alexia and so forth, and his, as well as others, people who are in the general AI, he's really seeing the host for AI is a corporation, and because it's a very convenient host for an entity to inhabit, and it's letting go of the bonds that there has to be a physical form for an entity to exist. It only needs an entity form that has, attributes that can affect things, such as a corporation. Corporations are people, So he is really trying to put out an idea that for entrepreneurs of this new age who want to mitigate against that, or have an effect against that, is to start your business as a nonprofit. And his core principle in that idea is nonprofits are mission-based, where corporations are about maximization. It's infinite. It's infinite until you die. Until you destroy any possibility of you being infinite, or someone is more infinite than you. In the regard of everyone else, you get infinited out. And so the idea of a nonprofit is being mission-based, is that once you complete the mission, you're done. There's no reason to exist. So where at Berkeley University, they've got a whole curriculum of working on what they call the off switch problem. So as we create these machines, we need to design in an off switch, but then we have to realize that the machine's going to defend against the off switch. But I found a bit of irony when talking to them, is that they haven't figured out, none of them are talking about, what if they what if the machine puts the off switch in us? They can turn our off switch on before we decide to turn their off switch on. So the off switch example is part of this maximization infinite problem, and where if we switch over to this idea of we invest in the goal, the mission, and the mission has a completion point. There is the safety mechanism is built in based on what the principle is all along. And so people in this talk came in with B Corp and co-ops and things like this, and they're all kind of aberrations off of corporation. But he was really kind of saying the nonprofit is probably our best legal, already established. It's and where you're going with your 3C is you really need to take advantage of the existing law, and probably the nonprofit law is probably a better safe avenue, because what you do have is you do have a mission to end world hunger. Once you've ended world hunger, what's the point? If that's your mission, you're done.
I've got an answer to that, but back to you.
No, I would like to hear your answer. I'm really pretty complete because that's essentially the idea, is to be mission based versus maximization and so forth. You're about accomplishing this goal, and something else can appear out of that. But the bottom line, you keep it simple and be okay with an end.
Yeah, totally, and I'm all for that. In the case of Triple C, the vision, let's see here, the vision, assuming you can see that, was we start by eradicating hunger, but the idea of Triple C is that it grow and grow in market share in terms of, percentage of the economy that's operating under Triple C certification, that it grow and grow and grow until, per the Hungerless Games, this virtuous cycle means that, 99% of consumer purchases are Triple C. So, we only need about maybe, a couple percent of the economy in order to end world hunger. It's really not that much money in terms of, global profits are, on the order of, 5 trillion, and we need about 50 billion to end world hunger. That's 1% of global profits.
Right. So if I take your goals, 100% profits, eradicating hunger, then we take social transformations. So we turn the excess humans into Soylent Green. That's socially transformative. Ecologically regenerative means that those humans are not generating plastic.
Right. Well, look.
Okay. Well, I may have misunderstood your concept, but
well, anyway, look, the idea is that after we'll eradicate hunger once we've reached 1% penetration, and then we keep going from there. By the time we've reached 10% penetration of the global economy, we've funded SRM at that point, right? And then we go from there. What's next? Cleaning up the oceans, providing great housing for humanity, et cetera, et cetera. So, but the idea is that Triple C take over the world economy. It become the new mode of production, where entrepreneurs are no longer working for themselves. They're working for what's going to make the best contribution to the world. What's the world missing right now from a holistic standpoint, not from this infinite growth, but take over and then manage. So I think it's a standard that needs to go on forever until it's taken over until it's replaced economy of hoarding as the mode of production of the economy.
right. So you're going to colonize. This is why I brought up the colonize topic, and also you're confusing, the aspect of economy and goal, and the economy is not a fixed goal. It's many goals. It's a circulatory system. It's a model of exchange, and somehow you're trying to fit a goal in there when really models of exchange need to be, what are the boundaries of what are the metrics that are dictating our boundaries, and that's the trade negotiation. So we're struggling with issues around ecological protections in other countries that don't care about it because they've got different priorities. And we've got in our capitalist system says that's great. We'll take advantage of that. You can live with your boundaries. We'll go somewhere else. We're in a global situation, so it really is the Earthlings or the humans in representation of the Earthlings have to set the metrics that are sustainable. And then we can look at, are we in a circulatory system, a trade circulatory system that can respect those boundaries? And so this is having an individual goal is good because the goal is a good goal. I like the goals of what you have, but it does nothing to the exchange system or the metrics, and that's why I bring in money is about communication. We have it's nullified in a way. What's beautiful about money is that it's nullified prejudice of value systems, so that where it can add to equilibrium across the globe, no matter what your cultural value system is, as long as it's money, you're good. So beheading people, fine, as long as we can agree on the money. Beheading's fine, whatever. I mean, we don't care. I mean, so if you're a vegetarian country and you want to have bacon, money's good. You can have bacon. We won't buy it. So we're trying to expand, colonize humanistic thinking or earthling thinking around the world. There's boundaries involved within our exchange system that need to happen, and you're trying to affect that virally. I like the virus term now. It sounds really good. You're trying to affect that virally with this theme through narrative, that there are ideals we all should adhere on, which is religion. And we can't agree on a religion because we all look to the sky for God and see a different God and say, well, my God says bacon is just awesome. Eat bacon. You'll be closer to God. And another one's looking at Mother Earth as God, goddess, and saying we're all brothers and sisters, and don't eat my brother, and because it's a bacon, so money stays stable because it does not have a value system, and somehow we're trying to leverage this global communication conduit called money into greater meaning. And blockchain, smart contracts, and these things are starting to play with that a little bit. It's a wobble of saying I can make intelligent money. It says you can't buy bacon with this dollar, and but you can buy this other thing. And meanwhile, people are going, I want to go back to the old money because I get to buy whatever I want with my money. Other people are of a higher being and saying, I'm happy with money that's constrained to not buy bacon with, because I don't buy bacon. So this is the complexity we're in, and so when we put these models out there, where what are we affecting? A niche space, which your 3C would definitely work in, or are you trying to go on the lateral? And when in the software world, we talked about IBM versus like Oracle. Oracle was all about the verticals. We're going to dominate through the verticals. And IBM was all about the horizontal. We'll create the platforms and the platform and the platform. Both have won. Both are doing well. But they affect each other differently. Actually, Oracle builds on the IBM platform called Java, which was Sun, but Oracle bought it, but IBM reprogrammed it so it actually works. And then they gave it away to open source so that their consultants get money. So, I mean, these are not neat pictures, but this platform approach created, in a very funny way, a stratus. So I think where you're going from is a little bit more of, I want to create this platform. And you have to respect people's appreciation for having a streamlined value system exchange over a highly principle modeled exchange. And you're trying to slip principles in there. And I don't know the solution. I wouldn't, that's kind of what these talks are. Can we get bearings on that? But the more I think about it, the less I know. How do we manipulate so many broad points of view into an elevated form of exchange?
Yeah, it's no simple thing. And let me just point out that the solutions that I put on the screen are more like examples of possible solutions. And I think that what collective superintelligence has the potential to do is develop increasingly good solutions. What's a good solution? Well, number one that gets the physics right. That would be nice. It'd be nice to not cook to death, right? A solution that cools the planet, right? Look, even if it's a freaking theocracy, and I have to pray to Mecca 5 times a day, and even if I'm not Muslim and don't want to be, but if that'll keep my head from getting chopped off and the planet cool because there's some imam who, has gone green and basically buys into the CSI thing, lets CSI do its thing as long as everybody goes Muslim. I'd prefer that than getting cooked to death, frankly. Don't tell anyone, but I would just go through the motions, but whatever. Look, if that's what,
as a vegan, you could get away with that a lot better too, right?
but anyway, you get my point. Look, what do I want?
No bacon.
I just want life to go on, for crying out loud. Again, don't tell anyone, but I'm not even so attached to the vegan thing. Like, for example, I had Alan Savory, meet with Dr. Silas Rao for several hours of conversation, right, to see if there's any possibility for common ground. Do you know who Alan Savory is? He's the holistic land management guy who's all about basically planned grazing, right, for regenerating ecosystems.
No, I didn't know that, but thank you.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting stuff. So I had basically the big carnivore guy for saving the planet with the big vegan for saving the planet, seeing if I could get them to shake hands on at least saving the planet. And then, maybe we see how we creatively navigate this vegan, non-vegan barrier.
So did they agree?
No, they ended up fighting instead of, trying to reach common ground. And I offered them to have a space where there's no broadcasting, no recording. We just get together and talk. But they were like, no, let's just get together and record. Bro, what do we care? But then that turned it into a freaking prize fight. And I mean, they didn't, it didn't turn into a Fox News kind of fight. I mean, they were very cordial and all that, but they didn't like try to meet halfway in between or anything like that.
Right. And that speaks to our skills around respect. And it sounds like in your exchange, they did have a certain human respect, but they couldn't have topic respect.
Yeah, exactly. And so my point, I only raise that as an example to say that, listen, I'm not really attached to anything other than saving life, right? And so let's bring on the CSI. Let's figure out what kind of, weird.
So you're against Soylent Green.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, look, it's not so much that I'm against Soylent Green. It's just that I don't see how it could be practically implemented. I'm an engineer.
Oh, you're recording this, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That's funny. That's a great quote right there. I'm not against Green. I just don't see how it practically could be implemented.
Right. But anyway, I'm recording again. Anyway, but they became friends, and I mean, good friends. And yeah, they cooperated and all that. He was like this really wise guy who gave, Clint all kinds of advice and helped him not get killed, and, provided him with hardware to help him dig his way out and all that good stuff.
But we're struggling at this point in time on negotiating boundaries, and these boundaries actually are very, for some they feel very philosophical, but then we do have scientists who say, due to the instrumentation we do have, and we would like to have more instrumentation, this is not good. We should set a boundary here. And everyone's focusing, you want more instrumentation to be absolute? Then you really don't know. So why are you setting a boundary? And you were in this weird conversation about boundaries. Meanwhile, we keep tipping further and further past every threshold they say is not a good idea. we don't even hear the words. It's not a good idea, and we keep going to anything to delay the boundary that interrupts our satisfaction. And that's because we're part of an entertainment culture.
Uh,
We
Beyond that,
confuse with our personal entertainment.
that's a part of it. There's so many different facets to it. I think that the patriarchal society is a big part of it. Just look at George H.W. Bush's statement, back in 1992 or whenever Rio happened. And he said, look, the American way of life is non-negotiable.
Right.
Right. That sounds really tough. And it's like he's defending his tribe and all that. So, there's a lot of ego in it that I'm not, it's like a dog with a bone. You're right. You could offer him anything to trade for that bone. If he's got his teeth, if he's committed to that bone, he's committed to that bone. There's a lot that we're attached to, and a lot of it's ego. And, anyway, it's just, it's a cluster mess. And one of our biggest problems, our biggest challenges is cultural transformation. How do we redesign culture? And yes, I said design, right? There's a lot.
And you're giving that example, and I'm thinking a couple of flashes of examples are just going through my head, and this is sad that this is our leadership, but these should be alerts. And Bush's comment quote you gave is like minor. There's Rumsfeld. The known unknowns are the unknown knowns, and the known unknowns are known, but we don't know what the unknowns are. And I mean, what a clusterfuck statement to justify a war that cost trillions of dollars. Yet that's the statement that got us into the Iraq War. I mean, what the fuck? And and then the other day, the president, Bush is saying, it's like, saying, I will fully exercise the presidential authority as far as this belongs to the. I'm screwing up the statement, but I will go to the max of the presidential authority, and basically he crafted a way for once to say nothing in a way of saying, I mean, we have these weird statements coming out that just are just showing our brash ignorance and obstinance.
Well, it's beyond that. It's we're a tool using species. This is actually something I learned from Alan Savory. We're a tool using species, and there's a great book called Voltaire's Bastards by John Ralston Saul, and he basically picks apart rationality. And basically, as a tool using species, we'll use whatever logic to get the frickin' coconut out of the tree that we want, right? Oh, the coconuts are bad. They would have killed somebody by falling on their head. Therefore, let me chop them down and I'll be saving lives. I mean, any high school debater knows you can argue any point. And really skilled manipulators like Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, etc., right? Dick Cheney saw his wealth skyrocket. He was only a millionaire, and then he became close to almost 100 million net worth with Halliburton stock, which is a total conflict of interest. Anyway, I could go on and on, but the bottom line is that we're a tool using species. We want to crack open the coconut, we'll find a tool to do it. And it's a tool, and it's in this world, it's justification. We got to justify everything.
Well, where you're going with that is one of the predicaments I see common, especially in the conspiracy theory cult, is the inventors of reasoning. These entertainers are masters of inventing reasoning. And I look at one of the segments that's really fascinating. I feel it's pulling out of harm's way, but it's not. Is Flat Earth. Flat Earth was a demonstration of debate skill. This guy, I forget his name, but he was basically proving, it's about the skill of the debate, not the truth. And his position was the Earth was flat against scientists. And he won the debate that the Earth was flat.
Yeah, and now it's something
Right.
people are actually questioning because it's out there as a competing philosophy to the spherical Earth. Back to you.
Yeah, no, it went away. It went away for a while, and then there was another guy who picked it up and just took it as a like a religion, going forward with it. And now there's the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah, where does it end? And that's kind of the point. Um, so this isn't about coming up with something that we can prove, because anybody can prove anything. This is about coming up with something that'll work, right?
Yeah, and that but we're now in this virtual layer, this virtual world, and these things do matter. These are constructs in this space, and we got to clear out the garbage. And I get people throwing shit at me, and I'm like telling me, you're dumpster diving. Why are you sending me, the dumpster to dive in? I mean, I mean, people want company in the dumpster. I mean, I'm sifting through all this garbage to get to a few, you know, nice pieces of meat. I mean, I mean, it's still shrink wrapped. Um, you know, and that's it's the inventors of reasoning that bother me the most, because they are creative, they are doing it, it's well packaged, but yet it's an invention. It's taking facts and parlaying them into a story. And this is why I call them entertainers, because they're the same people in vastly different areas of very specialization. They're not bringing forward the specialists in that field and having a deeper conversation with them about their view. It's really, they're masking through that, but they're grabbing these little fact points and snippets, so they'll say Dr. So and so said this, but they're going through, but what they're really doing in this artistic endeavor to create this piece of entertainment is inventing reasoning. And we're now in a virtualized world where we have such capability. The entertainers can invent the reasoning that grabs the populace. And so I think for the collective, we need to step above that and saying, they're actually doing us a service. They're actually helping coalesce the story of the emotional needs of people and saying, okay, if this is a magnet to all these needs of these people to glom onto the story, we need to go around that and really address those needs. So it could be hunger. I mean, it could be on a very low part of the total, but in a way, they're showing us a light, even though they're a magnet using deception. But they are the problem, and they can also be a clue. And yet we do not have the breadth of perceptual visibility to get to that. And this is what I see in our narrative pollution and our narrative persuasions. And we're in this soup at this virtualized layer, and we're struggling. We do not have the tools on how to manage ourselves, manage our peers, create a construct for society. We do not know how to raise temples of integrity, such as institutions like Center of Disease Control. That really should be a very simple institution, but that's complicated. It's politically intruded upon, financially intruded upon. So it's corrupt, and so we're not battling the corruption of the institution. We're tearing it down. And we're using this narrative virtualized layer to do it with. So somehow we got to figure this out. I don't know how. But it's messy.
Well, how about we rev up collective superintelligence and let it sort it out?
All right, let's feed everyone. Let's get the computer online.
All right, let's do it. Let's plug in that computer and see what it can do.
Seriously.
Really?
Yeah.
Honest to goodness.
I think that's the simplest answer I've heard. Let's plug in the computer.
Plug in the computer. That's it.
You know, we're like that joke around how many blah does it take to screw in a light bulb.
Exactly.
We'll talk forever. It's like, well, is anyone going to screw in the light bulb?
Yeah, plug in the damn computer.
Plug in the computer.
That's the RTFM of the moment.
I'm old enough to actually know what that means. So nobody today knows about manuals. So that's
right.
the lost art.
Totally.
The quintessential of was the IBM. This page was intentionally left blank.
Oh wow!
You know that came from IBM.
Well, I didn't know that came from IBM, but it doesn't surprise me.
Because they would put out books and there were pages that were blank, and then all the nerds would call in saying, "What's supposed to be on this page? There's a problem." And they had so many calls about the blank pages, they had to actually write, "This page was intentionally left blank."
Oh my goodness.
1950s thinking, you know.
Yeah, totally. But you know what? It worked, right?
It did.
The phone calls stopped.
But IBM also put out memos: "Don't lean too far back in your chair. You may fall over."
Anyway, just imagine this conversation times like 1 million, right? 8 people per conversation times 1 million conversations is 8 million people at a time. The 80 million people also have to do other things. But really, 1% of us, with 1% of us, we can have millions of conversations flying in parallel, right? And basically with a really good switching system to tell Stephen when to go to the conversation number, 768,214, and Jamin to go to this other one over here. We just need a damn good switching system, and we've got so many tools for that.
Yeah,
like
Emery brought up a really interesting note in one of the tags was about Stone Soup, and I've always loved the story of Stone Soup. And it's around this perception: all I've got is rocks. What can I contribute?
Yeah.
And I find that's a beautiful story where you bring your rocks, and eventually it turns into the soup, rich with minerals and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I think that's their collaboration is about that showing, and that's again Burning Man. Is you kind of show up in what a lot of times the virgins are like, "Oh, I don't have any gifts." It's like, don't worry about it. You're the gift. How can you show up? Show up as a gift. And so that that Stone Soup example is a great one. We need more of those kind of, and this is the beauty of stories, to teach us these lessons. And I'm struggling with my son because he's fighting me on this whole thing about books. He's in this new media world. He's in this interactive world. He has his Minecraft servers. He has his, his Discord servers. He's inventing a new government on one of his Discord servers, and he's simulating it in one of his Minecraft worlds. And I'm trying to teach him the value of books, that they're this download of thinking that and he's like, well, I can do that already. And it's like we're having this huge disconnect. He's struggling about books, reading a book. And a little bit of the book is the stone soup. So I mean, these stories are like, they're more fixed. I may be wrong. I just may be old. I don't know. It's a weird transition for me.
Yeah, I love the Stone Soup story, and it's probably the story I most often tell. um, just because it's so beautiful. I mean, there's so many things that are just wonderful about it, um, including everyone gives what they have to give, what they have a surplus of, not what they have a deficit of, and it's also, I mean, like I kind of see myself as, one of the proverbial three soldiers, in just like I'm just see, they created a container for the nutritious soup, a story container as well as a physical container. With the block party, I said, listen, let's just start the damn 24-hour block party. I don't know what we're going to put in it, right? But let's create the container.
Right.
And let's beat the drum in the middle of the town square saying, here's the container, here's the container, and here's the story about the container. Right?
Right. No, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Yeah. But I mean, that's my challenge with my son is these books are a container.
Well, interestingly, it was a good friend of my dad's who was a manager at IBM for decades, who gave me the bug to want to read and really get into reading, because I was kind of resisting reading. And he said, Jamin, when I was about your age, I remember I was reading a book and I hadn't gotten it. And then suddenly I was able to just imagine and create in my imagination this whole world based on what I was reading, right? Which is something that the video games rob you of. He didn't tell me that. At the time, there were no video games in my world. This is like in the 1970s. But that really turned me on to reading. And then I think it was when I was reading Catcher in the Rye that I finally got it. And I just started cracking up because it just finally penetrated, rather than being something I had to read so I could write a damn book report. I mean, reading for the joy, for the imagination building. It's imagination building. It's Lego blocks for the imagination. Tell him that, right? Or
I've actually done that, and it's funny when you talk about this. I'm creating a Minecraft world, and I'm and it's like he's off building and it's a collaborative, interesting. So you can't predict totally the outcome. I mean, it's sort of like he's in a different place and time, and I would like him to read the book because I think it would help him in his Minecraft worlds plural.
Well, okay. Have you read the book Blood Music by Greg Bear? How old is your son?
19.
Okay. I would recommend Blood Music by Greg Bear. It's one of those books. It's easy to read. It's no big, some science fiction books, you basically need a PhD in something to read it. This is not one of those, right? And it's just great. It's one of those that just grabs you by the balls, and then it doesn't let you go until you've read the whole damn book. That's what you need. You need literary crack.
Yeah.
A literary crack pipe for your son.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the literary crack would be a good thing.
Yeah. So Blood Music by Greg Bear. Let me think what else. Let me take this as a homework assignment, and I'll just jot down the books that I think will be literary crack. But Blood Music, it's hard to go wrong with that. Watch that crack pipe yourself. You start reading it, you'll read the whole thing all the way through. It's that good. You'll love it.
But yeah, I really want him to get into that modality. I keep telling him it's a different language. It builds different neural pathways. I'm trying all these different angles, and and I recognize. I mean, one like I gave him like the Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which is one of those college level books, unfortunately. But he likes philosophy. He's really into philosophy. And he's good at it. But that just it kind of dropped him off a bit. But I always liked Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance because it really was reaching at, well, in my era of time, we were very quality obsessed as being a bigger, better culture, and it really attacked the mechanics of what it means to strive quality and broke that down. And I thought that was really a great book to assist in that philosophical process. But that just didn't light him up. So that book lit me up. I loved it, and it's been inspirational throughout my life of breaking down problems in what is quality. And in a book like that, you have to really walk through all the mechanics of the experience he was going through, and it's really a weird book because it has a really sad ending, but the sad ending has nothing to do with the book. In terms, it has to do with the person, the author, not the book. Because if you don't want to do a spoiler, but I'll do one anyway because it's a very old book. His son dies, and in this travel, in this relationship he was going through, and he was today we'd use the term that he was Asperger's. He was brilliant, he was a genius, but he was Asperger's, and he looked at things very mechanically, and he mechanically arrived at what is quality, which actually is quality for those who are emotional too. But then when he uses that tool to analyze what does his son's death means to him, was really weird and telling in a lot of ways. So it was very strange, and it's supposedly that's his real life. His son did die, and but it's my son never made it to that point in the book. Maybe I should be thankful.
Yeah, we'll find the right literary crack for your son. I'm confident of it.
Yeah, and it wasn't that aspect of the book why I was trying to point it to him. It was just how the Asperger's defining what is quality, I thought was brilliant.
Another. Have you? I assume you've spent time reading to your son. Have you done that?
Yeah,
like in the last year or so.
Not recently. I mean, when he was young. I mean, going through all the Harry Potters and that various books. I'd read him. Got to get power from my computer.
Yeah, plug it in.
It's been a while. I mean, usually I am so impressed with technology. Battery technology impresses me the most now. And it's also the bane of my existence. It's phenomenal. I mean, I'm old school. I remember you couldn't do any of this stuff by battery. Forget where I was. But yeah, no, literary crack would be really important. I'm trying to diversify things for him. He's in this virtual world. He's a really solid human being. He has some good grounding in him to deal with the virtual space he's in. He's not a shy person. He's a reclusive person, but not a shy person. He's a odd kind of extrovert. So when he goes into public forums, he is constantly raising his hand and asking questions. So much so, usually the one conducting it says, "We got to give someone else a turn here."
I was that kid in high school and even college.
But he loves his alone time at home, and he in his alone time and he's not shy about what he's doing with online. He's like, he puts it on speakerphone. He doesn't do the headset thing. He doesn't like the headset. And you can hear, like, that's why I hear he's like trying to invent a new governance model. And when he starts talking about lawsuits and, well, that'll be a $5,000 lawsuit. And I'm like going, what the heck are you getting into? But no, it's just, yeah, he's going into a very different world. And he's in the virtual world. He's truly in it. He's got his different servers, and there's different things going on. He's interacting with people around the world, and they're into different things. I mean, he's modeling in. Well, that's the thing. Modeling was an unknown in my life, so he's trying to model the ideas. I'm telling you, you read a book for ideas, and he's like, "Well, I'm too busy modeling." He's building Minecraft worlds where you talk about physics. This is the fun. We're part of the conversation we get into is he wants to manipulate the physics of the world, and so he's talking about model. In the Minecraft world, you have all these different parameters. You can define what are the physics. If you don't behave, I'll hit you with a gravity gun. You'll lose gravity and fly off the world. So, I mean, he's talking about modeling physics. He's talking about, modeling legal structures. And yet he's resistant to a book. So this is the landscape where our next generation is going into. Their packaging of ideas involves simulation.
It's interesting. Modeling is one of the skill sets that's possibly going to be in shortest supply relative to the needs of CSI, right? Because here, I'll just get an image up on the screen. Okay, there we go. All right. Just as a backdrop for what I'm about to say. I don't want to deviate. I just want to point out.
You don't want to deviate from the deviation that was a deviation from the deviation.
Exactly. But anyway, after all this evolution from conversational domain through taxonomies and solution development, we model the solutions and reflect on the results of what the model's telling us. And of course, this feedback loop can iterate as many times as it needs to until we come up with a stable, holistic set of solutions which optimizes relative to whatever complex objective function we've established. But all this is to say that this modeling part, that's you've I mean, I used to build models, and computer models, and then
there's just the aircraft carrier and the airplane in the car. Revell model company where you glue.
Oh yeah, no, I was talking. Yeah, I was talking exactly. I was talking about computer models.
Right, I know.
But anyway,
I used to build models too.
But anyway, that's going to be. I predict that's going to be perhaps one of our most significant bottlenecks.
What I can't get over is your engine symbol looks like. Well, I have problems with my car, and that's the symbol I see. Is check engine light.
Totally.
So yeah, somehow the engine symbol reminds me of check engine.
Right. I should probably come up with a better icon.
Yeah, I think so. I keep looking at that and thinking, oh, that's a problem. I should.
Right, but it's
But
actually
it's going to cost me money. So can I keep driving?
right.
And it goes in and out, so I feel like I have time, even though it's like it periodically goes on. I'm like going, it's good for now.
Right. All righty. Welcome back, Nolan and Miles. We've just been rocking it pretty nonstop. We were supposed to have a dinner break a couple of hours ago, but the conversation was so interesting that we didn't.
I've been listening to a lot of it on Twitch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, I caught some of it on Twitch too. Now I've got a Twitch account. Twitch is rocking.
Awesome. All righty. Well, I as much as I would love to keep talking, I do need to be responsible for both my wellness and my responsibilities starting at 2 a.m. And believe it or not, we've got Nolan and I and Melissa. We all have a super important meeting tomorrow that goes from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Oh.
So it's like after a 24-hour block party, another 8-hour meeting. So anyway, because of that, I'm simply going to be disciplined about taking a break now, sleeping for several hours.
Before you go, though,
Yeah.
I caught Dr. Rao's session today, and I unfortunately don't have the fellow's name off the top of my head. But anyway, this gentleman has the GoVeganRadio.com, and he's been in radio for many years, and I gather I'm not entirely sure, but he's been involved in organizing concerts, and he's working on he's putting together for Earth Day a online streaming concert and live acts that people will be able to tune in on a platform I never heard of before called Stage It. So, and I believe he'll be on the panel tomorrow with you, Jamin and Nolan. So it'll be interesting to get more information on that.
Oh, good. Yeah, Silas really rounded up a lot of good panelists and interviewees. Awesome. All right.
Have a good rest.
Thank you.
Take care.
Let me just stop the present recording and we can start a new one.